Greetings, Patrick here. Eight questions with, and welcome to the show. It's a beautiful, overcast, sunny, partly sunny day here in Southeastern Michigan. This is like first of two shows. That's right. Whenever you see me early on a day like today, that can only mean that we are hosting somebody either in Europe or somewhere else. And we are headed to the UK for today's first show, and we'll be talking with our friend, screenwriter and film journalist Tom Jolliffe. He'll be here with us in about 15 minutes, and then later on tonight at 8 o'clock, we'll be talking with homesteader Karma Lewis, who's also a fellow YouTuber. Hey, what's going on, Matt? So yeah, we're ready to rock and roll today. We have gotten Tom Jolliffe, who is a screenwriter. He's also a film journalist for Flickering Myth, and we are going to be talking to him about a lot of his films and about different styles of writing. I've been wanting to do this now for a little bit. Hey, it's Pat Master. What's going on, Pat? Um, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting show today. I hope you guys stick around for it, because it is different. This is going to be a little different, um, because, like I said, writing movies, um, it's tricky. It's different. It's a little difficult. It's going to be interesting. Hey, Anthony, how are you? Where are you working? Where are you working, Anthony? Hopefully somewhere fun. That's great. Yes, Flickering Myth. Yeah, that's a good magazine, and they also have a YouTube channel as well. Okay, great. That's awesome, Anthony. Yeah, so I have put my nose in Flickering Myth once in a while, to see what's going on. Flickering Myth is sort of like a Fangoria or Rue Morgue. I do think that Flickering Myth tends to do a little bit more mainstream films than the other two, but they're very well written. And Tom has been on staff there for quite a while. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion. Now, Tom has been on the show before, and I did put a link down in the description box where you can see his first interview with us. All right, so let me break out the calendar. Yeah, because everybody wants to know what's coming up. So, like I said, today is Tom at 2 o'clock, and then at 8 o'clock, our regular scheduled time, we'll be back talking with Karma Lewis. She is a homesteader and farmer and gardener out of Idaho. She has a YouTube channel called Lewis Acres Farm. I have never interviewed a homesteader before, so this will be a first for me. And she seems like a really nice lady, and she also is an interviewer. Can't forget that. She also does interviews as well on her channel, so I get a chance to interview an interviewer, which is always a cool thing to do. So that's tonight at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow night we will be talking with J.W. Colwell. He is the leader of the Indie Escape Network. He has three or four different shows that run underneath his network, and myself, I was a guest on one of their shows. Actually, two of their shows. One was scheduled. One was just, hey, last minute, what are you doing? And we were able to go up there and chop it up a little bit. And really good interviewer, really good discussion. They can discuss a lot of cool movies. JW and his crew have a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, and they appreciate good films. Last night they were talking about Lawrence of Arabia, and also talking about the last Starfighter. Starfighter. Ooh, I don't know where that came from. So those are two classic movies, and they're talking about Robert Preston. Uh, I'm old enough to remember Robert Preston, and So it was really an interesting show last night. So he will be on with us tomorrow night, and then Thursday, we will be back here with Brandon and Elizabeth. I will be double checking with that today, but as far as I know, we still have Brandon Rhines will be here with us, along with Elizabeth Chamberlain, and we'll be talking about two franchises that they are working on. The I'm Haunted franchise and also Grotesque. And Grotesque 2 is out, and I'm Haunted 3 is is in post production right now. And then Friday night at 8 o'clock, we will be welcoming back Corin Nemec back to the show. Corin Nemec will be back with us, and we will be talking Western films with Corin this time. We're going to be talking about his new Western film that he's done with Heather Graham called Place of Bones, and we will be talking with him about cowboys. I love westerns. I know a lot of you guys love westerns too. It is not a forgotten genre. It is alive and vibrant. Uh, sadly, it does seem though like every time that people do talk about westerns here, they're always talking about either the spaghetti westerns or they're talking about Unforgiven. And there are so much more westerns out there than just that. So much are out there. And if you only take the time to look for it and to find it and discover it, you too will be able to sit there and say, when someone talks Western movies, you'll be able to sit there and talk about something other than one very tired Clint Eastwood movie and spaghetti westerns. Uh oh, Bear Down, Arizona, Bear Down Wildcats. Oh boy. Yeah, you guys got our coach this year, Pap. You guys got our coach this year. That was our coach last year. That was our coach. Damn it. Um, Pap is talking about University of Arizona. That's the hat I'm wearing. Yeah, They took our coach from San Jose State last year, and he is their new coach this year. And I do believe Arizona will have a good year this year, while San Jose State will not have a good year this year. San Jose State's going to have a rough year this year. Um, Okay, and then Saturday the 17th, we are welcoming in Chris Horner from All Wins Games. All Wins Games, and that will be a 3 o'clock start on Saturday. Yeah, we're gonna do another matinee show. We're still gonna try to reschedule Jennifer Tuck's. Jennifer Tuck, her tech was on the. Hold on 1 second. No, I can't be heard. I'm waiting for. That's what happens. I never understand that how that works. Uh, wherever my phone cuts down my volume. Okay. Yeah, I got a phone call in there. Every time they've called in on a phone on here, it knocks my volume down to next to nothing. So, yeah. So the 17th, we will have Chris Alwyn. Oh, thank you so much. Yep, we're gonna be here for about hour and a half, hour 45 minutes. And yeah, I'm very excited to have you guys are all here. Um, like I said, we got a lot of good shows coming up. Yeah. Let's see, what else am I doing here on the channel? So, I decided I'm going to expand my dollar theater series. I'm going to do one where me and the Cheetah pick a movie out to watch, and then we're going to let you guys pick a movie out that we watch, and then we're going to put your pick on Fridays. So Fridays will be viewer's choice, and then Monday will be me and the Cheetah. Whatever me and the Cheetah watched, and then we're going to do that as well. It's only because I have so many damn movies to go through. If I just did one a week forever, I would I couldn't even scratch the surface. But I thought, well, why not just do two a week? So why not? And bring back viewers voting. So if you go to my community tab, you guys can vote on this week's movies. Which movie would you want to see us review? We put five out there. It's always going to be five movies. No, we're not doing Cheetah's Choice either because we already learned our lesson about that. You guys love the Cheetah way too much. But me and the Cheetah, we're going to be doing it on Monday. In fact, we just did our 99th. We did our 99th review. We just got done reviewing Gothica, which I haven't seen in forever, and man, that was a good movie. I really, really, really like that. I really, really enjoyed Gothica. Gothica's a cool movie. Hey, there's Sarah is here. What's going on, Sarah? This and Sarah says she's got 688 subscribers all in her first year on YouTube. That's awesome, Sarah. Oh no, you have one. You have 660, 688 or 1,100. I don't know as far as numbers goes. How many movies I own? I have no idea. I have no idea. All I know is I get every Tuesday I go to the library and I'm picking up stuff. Um, all right, the doorbell has rang, so that means we're heading over to the UK to welcome in our friend and screenwriter and film journalist Tom Jolliffe. And here we go. Tom,
Hello.
greetings, sir. Greetings.
Good evening. Well, or afternoon,
Afternoon,
early
afternoon.
afternoon for you. Yeah, evening
Yeah,
for me.
2 o'clock here and 7 o'clock for you. And
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I've been looking forward to talking to you for quite a while now. Again, to catch up. I have a whole new set of questions for you. Uh,
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
yes, but we also have a small splinter to pick with you. Um, and I want to tell you about that a little later on in the interview. And so you can get some hijinks out of it, so you can get some laughters out of it, because it was pretty funny. It's like when I was going through what I'll tell you a little bit. When I was going through it, I was looking at some different movies, and I noticed your name was like on one, and I'm like, you know what? I need to talk to him about this movie, um, and ask him how did it come to bear because or come to be because I was just really surprised by it. Like, okay, well, Tom can help me out. Um, and actually, you can help me out a little bit because you and I we've talked many times before. We did our written interview, we've done spoken interviews before, and I sort of look at this interview today as being more like an educational one, um, because you are a
Yeah.
really prolific screenwriter, and a very good one too at that. And you also write for Flickery Myth, where you
Yep.
write film. You're also a film journalist over there. But I guess the first thing I want to do is to see how you're doing and how are things in the UK right now. I know they're really really up in the air. Have you and your family been affected by it yet?
Um, Not as such. No. Yeah, it's just difficult at the moment. I think there's just a lot of just divides throughout, really, isn't there, in the Western world at the moment. We've not been directly affected, but I mean, it's almost like there was something that happened in London just yesterday, stabbing, and my wife and daughter had only been in exactly the same place, a couple of days earlier. So, you think you can kind of go in and visit somewhere, visit London or whatever, you're safe, and you just never know what's going to happen. But, hopefully things will settle down soon. There's not a lot any of us can really do about it. And violence is really the answer to it, to anything.
It really is a catch-22, it's a catch-22, it's, I was talking with the actor Rick Malin, and we were talking about this, saying how it's everybody's raging against the immigrant problem over there, and yet at the same time it's like, well, maybe if we haven't sold all those weapons to those people, maybe they
Yeah.
when you sell weapons to people, they get itchy, they want to use them, and so when they do use them, and then there came from you, and you've causing all this damage through your weaponry, even though you yourself are not pulling the trigger, but you supplied it. Next thing you know, now they have no homes to go to. Now they're coming to your house because you gave them the weapons, and I'm talking about the U.S. as well.
Yeah,
and you gave them to and then they come here because they have no place to go. And to me, it's like, maybe if we sold less of those weapons, maybe we have less of the problems that both our countries are facing. But
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's a few other things as well, like you just sort of go and affect people. We try and always affect the politics of other countries, and there are always repercussions to that, and that includes people having to vacate the country and look for somewhere else to stay. So it's difficult when everyone, particularly with the US and UK, we try and have a hand in everything. I mean, like the US kind of leads the way, and then the UK, we tend to follow what the US does. But we've seen it so often in the past.
It's just really rough in the UK though, because whereas the United States has a huge, wide expanse of land with different population centers, you guys are on an island. There's only a finite amount of people that you can actually have on the island and sustain it. It's rough.
It's tough. I mean, but we tend to pocket people in certain areas rather than spread out where there is a bit more space. I mean, people think we're really condensed and tiny and small, but there's just masses of expanses of open land, and there is space there, but it's just a difficult thing because we can't pay for ourselves at the moment in terms of budgets and everything like that. So whatever happens, we need to find the money from somewhere to do this, and then inevitably that comes from the working people having to pay more tax, and again that just adds fuel to the fire.
It must be it must be frustrating, especially since the money is going to, like I know you guys built and put into play 2 carriers and other items, trying to raise up your army and whatnot. And when I was reading about that, I was just thinking about, one of the things that the UK does that's really cool is they also subsidize filmmakers. If films are being made, they can apply for money to help go film their projects. And I was just thinking, how much will that affect the TV and cinema industry in the UK? Do you think that will be coming, or has it already been felt already, as far as people not being able to get money, or do you think this is something that will carry on in the future when people try to go make movies and then they'll find out that there's no money?
Yeah, it's really tough at the moment. I think what it is that the UK film industry is probably similar slightly in the US as well, where you have to almost have a foot in the door somehow by who you know, maybe a relative or whatever. You have to be in the right circles. It's really tough because they've just kind of on paper they've opened out more funding avenues, and they've given more possibility for people to get funding and get more tax breaks. But the reality is that you have to tick certain boxes. You have to have certain level of producers that are already in the game, in the industry. It's you have to be a certain size of production, so it doesn't suit people like I've worked with a lot who go off and make a film for £50,000. Doesn't really suit them. It suits people that are looking to make a film for maybe 1 million, 2, 3, 4 million. And again, that's a really difficult place to get into because you need to know people to do that. You need to have, a foot in the door. So, yeah, I mean, there's more tax breaks there, but it's just as elitist as ever, really. Possibly even more so. I mean, actors are finding this at the moment as well, where maybe 20 years ago things were opening up a bit more to working class actors coming through, and you had all these kind of people coming through working class backgrounds like Ray Winston and people like that. But those doors are, they're starting to close a little bit more, and you have to be kind of like come from a upper middle class background. You have to have had parents that can kind of fund you to be able to put everything into acting, because most of us have to kind of work day jobs and kind of keep the acting to the side, for example, or writing or directing, whatever it might be. So yeah, it's tough. So if you come from a background of money, you come from a background where you've got roots in, like, people, it's more feasible. But for the little person that doesn't really have any connections, it's still very tough. And we're kind of following in the coattails of America at the moment. So where all your productions are right down, and people aren't really making that many movies outside of like the very, very low budget stuff and the very, very big budget stuff. We kind of follow that as well. We're slightly dictated by what happens in America with the strikes and everything like that. So productions here haven't picked up the same as they haven't really in America. So it's a very difficult time at the moment.
It really is. I mean, here in the U.S., I mean, next month is supposed to be it's supposed to be beginning of the new TV season. We're finding out from the networks or from the studios that the value of network TV in America is really dropping. Our networks, as we know them, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, and the CW, they're all dropping in value because people they're not going to be buying ads there. The linear networks, it's just horrendous right now. I mean, ABC is, I think they said there's only like 21% of their fall schedule is going to be scripted TV, film TV with actors and whatnot. 21%. That's incredible. They've already given up pretty much here in America. They've already given up on Friday and Saturdays, pretty much. They don't even bother trying to run or premiere new shows. Is that like that over there in the UK with the BBC? I have heard that there was I wasn't sure which station it was, but I know they did it like a block of retro programming. It was like a block of 4 hours, or maybe it was a week, maybe like 20 hours, where they just went all the way back to old shows from the 70s and rebroadcast them. Are you starting? Are we starting to see that now? Are we starting to see that? Uh, uh, are you starting to see that as well as as we already are? I mean, over here it's all about game shows.
Yeah.
Linear TV networks TV, it's dying. Um, it's I mean, some people are saying it's going to be out by within 10 years. It's gonna be all gone. It's gonna be all 100% streaming. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, I mean that could be a worst case scenario. I mean, everyone increasingly now is moving to streaming here. We have to pay we have to pay like a TV license if we want to watch the BBC, for example, and people paying that is kind of dropping right down. So, you know, fewer people buying a license because people consider it to be a bit overpriced. Where, I mean, it's £170 a year. So it's, in theory, it's not too much if you're watching a lot of the BBC ones, dramas and things like that. But it rises every year to try and cover their costs. And people are kind of switching off to YouTube. You know, people are giving up on scripted shows and certain things, and they just go watch something that's 2 minutes on YouTube.
Now, is it true that, I mean, I still am blown away by the fact that people have to pay to see BBC? I thought BBC was regular network TV, but I guess it's not. I guess it's like a cable channel now. I mean, if I came over to the UK and we turned on your TV, what would we watch? What would we be able to watch without paying for anything? Or you have to pay to watch every channel that you watch?
So basically, you have to pay to watch anything that the BBC produces. That includes their streaming site as well. And then you also have to pay if you want to watch anything live. So say there's a baseball game on that you want to watch live, you would have to pay your license. But if you're watching exclusively streaming stuff or anything that's funded by advertising, so BBC's main rival on, I guess, standard TV here is ITV, and they're all funded through advertising. So BBC is all funded by the public.
Wow.
Via the license, yeah.
That's just like I guess that's what it's like. Hell, if you buy a certain cable package over here, you can watch BBC in America for free. It comes with the package. What's it like as far as writing about this? I mean, as far as writing about this as a journalist, because not only are you a screenwriter writing movies, but you're also a journalist who is writing about the film industry. What do your peers think about what's going on? I mean, when you guys talk in the office or Zoom or via Zoom calls, what do you guys talk about? I mean, is it a concerning? Is it a worrisome problem? Like, do you find yourself, I mean, there's plenty to write about, but I mean, is it a happy time? I mean, describe this, like, just take us back to your last meeting that you had with your peers. What did you guys talk about? The state of the UK film industry.
It's tough because I think we basically there's a network in the UK of people that everyone kind of knows everyone particularly in the indie level, and it's not the most positive at the moment because everyone's having this similar issues. So it's hard to get funding. You make a film and then it's hard to sell it, hard to get what you expect in return in terms of money and things like that. So it's just a very difficult time at the moment. I've written about the industry in general a few times on Flickering Myth, just the general state of Hollywood at the moment, and how unoriginal everything is. Wow. They're going for this sort of the safest bets all the time, but it's tough. And at my level at least, we're very reliant on streaming. Because obviously a lot of our films don't go to theatrical. Increasingly, we're not getting DVDs in a lot of releases anymore, unfortunately. And even then, physical media, the revenues have come right down. So Netflix, Amazon, all those other kind of the big channels, the streaming channels, they're paying comparatively very little amounts compared to what people would earn 20 years ago. in terms of like you'd make a film, it'd sell it on DVD, even if you've done reasonable numbers, you'd still make a healthy return. But you could go and put your film out on streaming, 10 million people watch that, and you come back, your film comes back with 5 figures or something like that. So it's very difficult, because if there's no way to kind of make money, it's difficult to get investors to kind of put their money into it. Used to be quite easy to sort of tempt investors, maybe people coming from a different background with maybe a little bit of an ego, to kind of get their name on a film poster or something. But now it's just sort of, it's difficult to convince people that it's anything but throwing money into a pit.
Yeah, because when now investors, now they're asking, before. You're right, absolutely, you're 100% right. An indie filmmaker could make a movie. He could do it himself, and then he could put it out there. Maybe he wouldn't get a big theatrical release, but what does it matter? He's selling DVDs, and
Yeah.
he's selling for $10 at a time or $15 at a time, and he has a fighting chance of getting money back. Because investors these days, they're coming. When you go to make that pitch, you're asking them, oh, how are we going to get the money back? If we give you 100 quid, how are we getting 100,000 quid? How are we getting that back? How are we going to, how are we going to, whereas before you can make a deal, with a network television station or a physical release and have a fighting chance. Now you have almost like zero chance. It's zero chance now. And I think this is another thing. This is why I think we're seeing less and less people going to investors. They're not going to the investing round because they know they can't get the money back. And I think this is something I'm starting to see in the UK, and that is they're starting to do crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to raise money on social media. And even then, it's like, it seems like every single project now these days is going that route. I've seen actors who okay, come watch me in Cat versus Dog. Okay, well, I just finished Cat versus Dog. Here's the crowdfunding. Here's the crowdfunding. Well, now I'm going to do Mars versus Jupiter. Here's another crowdfunding. And it's like, I think as the fans, I think we're almost like investors. It's like, okay, so you're asking me to donate to this. You're asking me to donate, but and for a lot of these movies, they don't even get off the ground. They don't even get in hardly any of the funding. They campaign for it, but they don't get it.
Yeah, it's tough.
There's no other. And you said before about in the UK, there's some monies available, but again, you don't these projects have to hit a certain requirement in order to get money, to get more money? They have to hit a certain requirement before the UK hands out, and the government hands out. Yeah. Could you go over with that again? Could you tell us what the level is for people to get money for their films in the UK?
I mean, there's quite a lot of different funding sources. Some of them are from the government as well, or you run from the lottery. You have to tick certain boxes, so you have to show that you're kind of promoting diversity. You have to do they prefer certain projects over others. So doing genre films and horror films, that kind of thing, isn't generally the sort of thing that people go to for funding. Tends to be dramas or something with some kind of social commentary in it. Again, a lot of the times you'll find in the small print somewhere on your applications that ideally you need to be partnered with someone who has experience on a film that's been widely released theatrically. So again, you have to kind of know someone who's kind of been there and done that. So if like Danny Boyle, for example, who did Trainspotting, you might have a good chance. I mean, we tried to, on my last film, The Baby in the Basket, we tried to apply for some funding at Creative Scotland. And, we just didn't quite tick enough boxes on it. And we looked back we kind of looked at who had previously had that kind of funding, and it was films like, Train Spotting 2, which is a big kind of mainstream film with a big mainstream director. And you're thinking, well, why do they need help funding a movie? Whereas, the little guy here trying to make their movie needs the money. So it's difficult. It seems to be catered towards people that are kind of already there or thereabouts and just need an extra helping hand. Not for the person that's kind of making the £50,000 genre film.
Yeah, I as far as having connections go, does that mean like they have to cast somebody, or do they have to get or are we talking like on a producer level where they need a producer that has enough clout to get a film on the big screen or has had a big screen, or do you mean a
Yeah.
cast where you've had to have like Cinderella's Revenge, which is the film that you co-wrote. Um, uh, Now that movie that had Natasha Henstridge on it. Was that money? Were you able to get money for that movie there through the government because she was attached to it, or did it have anything to do with it?
No, I mean that's a little bit different. So there was a couple of production companies that came together. They're quite well established, and one of them was run by Mark Lester, who did Commando and Firestarter, films like that. So they probably have a good pre-existing line of maybe regular investors or places where they can find funding. So we had two American companies kind of overseeing everything, and then a British company kind of did the hands-on production itself. But I mean, in terms of like funding bodies, you do need to kind of know someone. So it could be a producer that's done something before, a director. Could be that you get an actor that's well known attached as well. But I mean, Cinderella's Revenge didn't really have any kind of like government funding or anything like that. I'm sure they utilized some of the tax breaks here from filming here.
Sure.
And one of the reasons they shot over in the UK is because our locations are a little bit cheaper comparatively to out in, say, sort of LA. Because obviously, being Cinderella and it being a period setting, they needed sort of big manor houses and castles and things. So
Right.
it's still very expensive, but it's comparatively cheaper here because there's more availability, a bit easier to find.
I was pretty impressed that you got that you had a hand in the movie. How did that come around for you? Were you approached to come on board and write, or was it your original idea? Talk to us about a little bit about Cinderella's Revenge and your part in it. I still haven't seen I still haven't seen it yet, but I can tell you right now that I plan on seeing it because I admit it. I'm a Natasha fan. I've been a fan of hers
Yeah.
forever. She's great.
Yeah, she's really great in the movie, so I think you'll definitely enjoy her performance in that. But yeah, I was approached to do it. I'd worked a couple of times with the English producers that had been hired to kind of oversee the production itself. They asked me if I was interested in doing it. They said Mark Lester was kind of on board as well. That was kind of what hooked me in from the beginning because I grew up watching kind of Commando and Firestarter, Showdown in Little Tokyo. So I was quite keen to work with Mark Lester. And then we just set about kind of developing the project. We knew, so they came to me and said, we want Cinderella's Revenge, basically. So they had the title there. They had the basic concept, which was to take it back to its kind of horror roots, because I know people associate everything with Disney, but obviously going way back to the original story, and then there was a Grimm's fairy tale version as well. They're a lot darker than obviously what the Disney version is. So
Right.
we were kind of going back to that and then kind of injecting a little bit of comedy as well.
Now I want to talk to you a little bit about this too because I want to bring the Cinderella's Revenge back into this. So one thing I've learned since last time you and I talked and I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all. I really truly didn't know this. But some of your when you get asked to write a screenplay, now of course everybody wants to be the next, wants to be the next, the great writer. They want to be the next David Mamet. But not every film really requires that sort of script. Like if you ask David Mamet to write Cinderella's Revenge, he would have a hard time writing that movie. He would.
Yeah.
He would have a hard time writing that. There is a certain level when it comes down to writing a screenplay. Like, yeah, we know this is not going to win an Oscar. I mean, you know that going in.
Yeah.
How hard is it for you to write a screenplay to the level of Cinderella's Revenge versus, and because to me it's like being asked to run a race with one of your, or with your hand and with one leg and one arm tied. It's like you want me to run it, I can, but I'm not going to be able to run it the best I can. But we don't want you to. We want you to run with just one leg and one arm. We're
Yeah.
okay with it. How hard is it for you as a writer to lower your writing level down to meet what the producers want?
It can be tough sometimes. I mean, sometimes you'll get a concept and you'll think, well, maybe we could do something a bit more, a bit fresher, a bit more kind of interesting. But, again, you have to kind of hit certain beats that they expect, which is what they kind of think the audience will expect as well. You're also kind of having to fit within certain budget levels at times, which has been quite difficult, certainly on things like when I'm doing a disaster film and it's, you're writing for a very small budget, or maybe a sci-fi film for a small budget, where you kind of have to think up other little complications, beyond, because if it's a Firenado, for example, they can only have it in maybe, 5 or 6 shots in the whole film. So then you've got to think up another kind of complication in the film to kind of throw at the characters. But I have quite eclectic tastes in movies anyway, so I love B movies, kind of horror movies, sort of, exploitation movies. So I'm quite happy to write something to a very kind of, I guess, simple formula to deliver to the audience. I kind of get it from the producer's point of view that if you kind of break away from a certain formula too much, it might be counterproductive. I mean, you might end up with a cult film or something that goes above and beyond what they expect, but the other thing is you might kind of crash and burn. So they tend to take the safer route most times. But I think I was quite happy with Cinderella's Revenge that they were quite open to doing something a bit quirky and having a bit of comedy in there as well.
Right.
Yeah. Because generally, like, if you're mixing genres, they don't tend to like that so much, particularly in the kind of the indie horror world. They prefer you to kind of, horror should be horror, and
you mean
away
like
from comedy.
like a Leprechaun movie?
Yeah. Again, I mean, I've done one of those, but
All right, so this is why I brought you on here, Mister. Okay, so I got to tell you this real quick, and then we're going to talk about the movie. Fortunately, I didn't see the one that oh my God, I can't believe we're going to talk about this. So anyway, me and my buddy, we had a challenge. We did a Sharks and Slot movie. So
yeah.
So I picked 5 shark movies for him. You guys got to do more shark movies. There's no how come the UK never has any shark movies?
I actually did turn down a film called Mountain Shark, unfortunately. So that's coming out somewhere.
Why did you turn that down?
Yeah, I was too busy at the time, and I just thought
Oh,
I'd love to do it, but I've got too much on at the moment.
in the set,
It did get made, and it's coming out, so it's there somewhere.
it got well. We probably already know who did it too. I already know who already did it. Okay, so we did Sharks and Slot. Oh my God, Mountain Shark, that'd be awesome. It was going to be set in the UK.
Yeah.
Damn,
I mean, I imagine it's going to do exactly as the title suggests.
it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Mountain Shark. It's Castle Shark's coming up too. So anyway, we did the shark versus schlock together, and I picked five shark movies. He picked me five schlock movies. Tom, this got my friend. He gave me the Leprechaun's Game.
Yeah.
So when I was sitting there and I was grinding my teeth and I was going like, "Oh my God, what the hell am I watching?" I went over and I looked on the IMDb and there was another one, The Leprechaun's Curse. And lo and behold, your name is attached to that. So let's talk about So let's talk about that.
That's better than the first one. So my one is kind of like a sequel to the one you watched.
My cat throwing up a fur ball. My cat throwing up a fur ball would be better than the first one.
Yeah.
So how now? This is seriously is a serious question. How did you get approached to write that? I mean, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, because I know you and I know I've seen your writing. You could write screenplays a lot more elevated. My question is, knowing that, what is in it for you to write a movie like a Leprechaun's Curse? I mean, yes, it's a credit, but doesn't writing movies like that, doesn't it hurt a screenwriter when they look at your resume and go like, "Oh, he did Leprechaun's Curse"? Does that hurt a screenwriter? Does that and try to get that movie made? Like, I'm sure that movie got made by fundraising. I'm sure it didn't get subsidized. Is it hard for a screenwriter to write to the level of that? I mean, I know you said you write to the budget, but let's just face it, the budget for that movie was £5, and it was probably your salary. There's no money in that.
Probably, yeah. No, I think what happened with that one is I'd worked with Louisa loads of times, and she came to me one day and said, I've got half a script here, but I haven't got time to get the rest of it done before the shoot. So I kind of read what she'd done, kind of slipped into the same kind of flow, and basically finished it off. But I think where they slightly differed on that one is they had a bit more fun with it compared to the last one. They kind of went in knowing that it was going to be bad and kind of, had a few jokes here and there and had a bit more fun with it. So from that perspective, I thought, well, I know I'm going to have fun writing kind of leprechaun humor and doing that kind of thing.
Did you ever think about your friend in the UK, in the United States, being me? Did you ever think about us? Like, we had to, dude, it's bad. I'm just like, I was just so bummed out. I was just so bummed out. I'm like, what's he doing writing this? I mean, he wrote Firenado. We like Firenado. Firenados are fun.
Yeah. That was probably about 3 times the budget, and that was still very low budget. So that gives you an idea with some of them, of these kind of films. But I mean, I've done such a wide range of like films that cost, like £10,000 up to, 1 or 2 million. So there's a big range, and to be honest, there's not massive amounts of difference in a lot of them either, in terms of the approach and kind of writing towards the markets. This is also why I've kind of moved a bit more into production. So that gives me the chance to kind of write what I want to write a bit more so. But it just does, it's not as quite as easy as someone coming to me, I want you to write this. This is how much we're going to pay you. You have to put a lot more time into producing, and, you have to wait a bit longer for the financial benefits, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm sure this is probably gonna like probably blow up in my face, but I just okay. So I don't know how well you know the director of these movies. I know you wrote the screenplay, but I'm not sure if you're like bosom pals or whatever. But how do you, as a writer, as a journalist, as a film critic, um, I mean, okay, do your peers do they review the movies that you make? I mean, if I went to Flickering Myth and I typed in, Cinderella's Revenge, am I going to get, is this something where, how do you keep that unbiased going? Because I'm
Yeah,
sitting there like, you obviously you can't write about your own movie,
no.
uh,
I
and,
mean,
and
I do on Letterboxd. I rate my own movies on Letterboxd, so
you really, you
I do.
really,
I'm not very generous either, but um, yeah. So no, I think in terms of like Flickering Myth, they wouldn't really cover any of my films in terms of reviews, and probably not too many of people I've directly associated or worked with in kind of like recent history. So yeah, we tend to keep it unbiased. I mean, I wouldn't kind of just I'd actively not like to kind of sit there and review my own film and give it 5 stars. I'd find that really, I wouldn't like to do that. So I'd be more inclined to go, well, that could be a lot better. I'll give it 2 stars out of 5. Um,
yeah, but are you giving it, are you, okay, but are you giving it 2 out of 5 stars because based on me? Because look, there's some movies that, like you said, they suffer from budget.
yeah,
I watched a lot of I watched a lot of B-level movies. They didn't have the biggest budget, but you know what? I'm still down for it if they have the acting. You know,
yeah,
if they have good acting in there, and they have some, at least if they try to do the special effects makeup, if they give it the effort, I will give a movie a credit if there's some effort put into it.
yeah.
There's
It
not a
just
lot of
it depends on the
there's no
movie,
really.
really.
I mean, is it frustrating to watch a movie knowing that, like the leprechauns? Okay, I'm
I
gonna have to.
mean,
I,
that one, for example. So the one I did, I actually quite enjoyed. I found it um, in a kind of so bad it's good kind of way because we were kind of like making fun of it a bit. But there's certain things in it like the mask is really bad in it, and you can see the fold
you have no
just up
idea.
the bottom, and
Yeah,
things like that. So, but this is one of those things where they've shot a movie in 5 days
and
rather
it
than
shows. It
yeah,
shows. Oh, okay, she's terrible. She's horrible. She's like the English version of Dustin Ferguson. I'm just being honest with you. I have
yeah,
never not been honest with you. And the thing that frustrates me about this, I mean, you worked with both good directors and you've worked with bad directors. But when you're writing, when you're a film journalist, don't you always look to see if a director advances, that goes forward? Like, okay, this first movie, because I saw this young director the other day, and I guess his first student film or short film, it didn't do so well, and he wrote down, says, my first movie is a huge flop. Is that normal, or is that normal, or is it just me? And I
yeah,
just put in, you know what, I just put in, look, not everybody's going to hit a home run the first time out. Hitting a home run out the first time out is so rare. Very few directors come out there and crush it the first time. I've always looked at film directing more as a learning tool. Like every time a director comes out with a new movie, it's always climbing upwards. As a writer, as a screenwriter, I mean, don't you look for that? Do you look for that as a screenwriter? Like, I'm going to work with this director because their movies are getting higher and higher in terms of quality, budget, casting. Do you look for those things before accepting a job? I mean, does that
yeah,
go inside of a screenwriter's mind? Like, I don't want to just be writing just to be writing. I want it to mean something. Even if it is a
yeah.
leprechaun movie, I want it to mean something. So, what does it feel like when you do work with a director who isn't going upward? They're just bad. Is it hard to is it hard to accept requests from them? And how do you tell them no without hurting their feelings?
Um, I mean, that's it. I mean, you still want to maintain good relationships with people. I mean, I tended to be maybe sort of 18 months ago, I would just not turn down anything. I mean, the first thing I turned down pretty much was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And
Yeah,
then
I've heard
that
of
went, and yeah, that went kind of viral, big hit. Obviously, it got trashed completely as well because, again, like a lot of these movies, they're made very quickly, very cheaply, with the goal of just kind of going out on Tubi, making a sort of tidy profit, enough to turn over to do the next thing. So that the producers would be, at least back then, were making sort of 20, 30 films a year, which is like an incredible output, that would even kind of make Roger Corman surprised back in the day. But you know it's all this thing of like quantity over quality. So yeah, I turned down Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. That was purely because of just time factor, because I was juggling so many things. But I
right.
tend to be a bit more picky now. But I love working with Louisa because she's really easy to work with. I think what I've seen, at least looking at some of her films, I've seen a little bit of growth coming in the last kind of year or so, where she's pulling back slightly on the quantity and trying to do slightly bigger projects. So she's got Cinderella's Curse, which is bigger than her normal kind of range. That's
Is
kind of
Cinderella,
yeah,
Cinderella's Curse?
yeah. So
It's
they
not a
they
sequel
they
to
announced
Revenge.
that. Yeah,
It's not a sequel to Revenge, is it?
no, completely disconnected, but they happen to be doing, because everyone's kind of jumping in on the Winnie the Pooh thing and doing like the IP thing. So they just happen to be doing something a couple of months after we did. So they've just been out theatrically in a couple of territories, and it's slightly bigger budget, bit more time and care than some of the other ones, like say for example Leprechaun's Game. um, and it helped, one
I would
thing that
never,
always helps is
I would never ask this. I would never in my normal day, I would never ask this. And you don't have to answer this, but I'm still going to ask you. Exactly how much did you get paid for that? No, don't laugh. Do not laugh. If you laugh, that tells me everything I need to know.
it was it was just about enough to cover a few car repair costs, so everything's useful. It was just one of those things where, so like Leprechaun's Game, for example, was that was a done in like 5 days for me. So I mean,
Uh,
literally. So, but that's 5 days. A few quick
yeah.
bucks. But if I'm producing something, so The Baby in the Basket, for example, I've been working on that for 2 years now, and we still haven't finished. So it's 2 solid years of stress, worry, constant working. We did a crowdfunder. We made the film. We've had it in sales now. We've got our US deals hooked up in UK, a few international territories, and then we've got to promote it when it kind of comes out at the end of this year, early next year, and then we've got to worry about the money coming in, how well it's doing. So it's going to be another year or two of kind of like being on the mind. Whereas Leprechaun's Curse or whatever, because they had so many titles for that.
You wrote it in 5 days.
5 days, hand it
Forgot
off.
it on the
That's it.
sixth.
Yeah,
You wrote it in 5 days. Forgot it on the sixth.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, well, I'll tell you a story about one of my other films I did with Louisa. So I did a
You did
Christmas
another one.
film.
Which
Yeah,
which one did you do?
it's called Christmas with the Pups, and I watched that at the weekend, and I really enjoyed it. Actually, it's one of those rare things that I can watch with my daughter. Just like a Christmas film in the kind of like the Hallmark mold,
Yeah.
simple. You don't have to, you know, it's not a big genre piece where if a leprechaun looks a bit rubbish with the rubber mask, it's not going to kind of ruin the movie. So it doesn't need
We gotta
big
forget
effects.
the mask is one thing, but the
Yeah,
leprechaun's like 5'10", and he's
yeah,
Asian. He's Asian.
yeah.
What
Um,
you couldn't find one small Irishman to be the to be the leprechaun.
no, apparently not. But I mean, this is why I kind of move into producing. But yeah, Christmas with the Pups, I really enjoyed. My daughter loved it. So again, it's a simpler thing. It's easier to do a kind of simple family drama Christmas film, bit of Christmas spirit.
Now
And I just sat
you
there
wrote this.
laughing at my own jokes. So
Okay. Well,
um,
so you did a Hallmark movie. Okay. Well, you know
yeah,
what though?
kind of,
That's
yeah,
fine. I love Hallmark movies. I love them. I
yeah.
watch them all the time. So now that must have been now was that your first time that you've actually you screenwrote a movie like that? I mean, that must have been
That was the first sort of Christmas film I did. And again, it was a case of Louisa came to me, said, "Do you fancy doing a Christmas film with a couple of talking dogs in it?" Um, and I said, "Yeah," because I it's one of those bucket list things. So I've got like Leprechaun, tick that off, Firenado, Christmas movie. Um, you
what
know,
came first? What came first on your bucket list? The Fire NATO, or the Leprechaun?
definitely the Firenado. Yeah,
Okay, and about
yeah.
Cinderella's Revenge, or Leprechaun?
Oh, definitely Cinderella's Revenge. I mean, all those old tales, kind of like adapting them. And again, because again, mostly I took that one on because of Mark Lester, the chance to work with him.
Sure.
Obviously, it was going to be a bit bigger budget as well. Um, Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money you have; it's never enough as well. So there's always that desire of needing more money. But yeah,
The chance you
significantly,
wrote it, for the chance you, I mean, with the opportunity that you got to write a screenplay, and it had
yeah,
a big Hollywood star in it. I mean, maybe her star's not as bright as it used to be, but it's still bright to a lot of people. And then Tasha
yeah,
Henstridge, I mean, she still sells tickets.
definitely, yeah.
That must have definitely been a feather in your cap. We have a question from our good friend Mike from Did You See That, who watched Cinderella's Revenge, and says when you co-wrote the script for Cinderella's Revenge, how much say did you have overall on the final script, and anything you would and would you change anything at all in the movie? So as the
Um,
screenwriter, how much did you have that control? How much control did you have in the script, the final script, and looking back at it, was there anything that you wish that you could have did differently with the script?
yeah, I mean, so it was quite interesting for me. This was kind of a new way of working. Generally, I've worked, if I've been working on a script, I've been working maybe kind of bouncing back and forth between maybe one person or two people, three sometimes. But this was like, two companies in America, the company in Britain as well. So script meetings would be, there'd be like 10 people there. Everyone's kind of throwing in ideas. They
Hmm.
don't always gel together that well. Um, but then, the sort of the heads of the company kind of have the overriding say on the direction the film should go in. So you're a little bit beholden to that. But I mean, I was quite happy that they were open to putting a little bit of kind of quirky humor in it. Um, and I like to kind of bouncing ideas off people. They were quite receptive to my ideas, and they liked the fact that I didn't kind of throw a tantrum at anything, or they liked the fact that I worked quite quickly. So you know I ended up working with them again on another film.
Good.
Yeah, so no, it was really good. But there was one thing in earlier drafts that I really liked, but we kind of had to. Again, it was a budget thing. We had to kind of take it out. Where Cinderella in the film, she kind of wears this mask to kind of hide herself. It's kind of like a protection against what she's doing because she's kind of turning to the dark side, if you like. So the mask kind of gives her this protection, and she can kind of disassociate from what she's doing. But originally, one of the original ideas that was going to be that when she wanted to go and get her revenge, she would be able to summon this power and turn into like a pumpkin-headed creature. Obviously, that would have required either CGI or like a decent practical effect, because if you do it badly, there's no point doing it. So yeah, I would have liked to have seen that version of it, I think, but it would have been too costly, unfortunately.
And I suppose you couldn't borrow the leprechaun's mask either.
No, that definitely wouldn't pass the test. No.
Excuse me, Louisa. Can I borrow the mask here? I got something. We're gonna put it on. We're gonna put it on Cinderella. Yeah. But you're right. I mean, it's better to, and it's better to, to know the limitations, like to know, to know that. And there's something I did catch on when you're talking about that movie. You mentioned that you did crowdsource for that, did crowdfund for that. Is crowdfunding a relatively new? Is that relatively new in the UK for filmmakers? Because I really haven't heard or seen anybody to crowdfund in the UK. Is that relatively new over over free?
I think, I mean, it's definitely not as commonplace as it is in the US, I don't think. But I mean, there were a few I just think that's probably because there's less filmmakers here generally. And what happens is at this kind of level with doing these kind of films, a lot of the films are funded by American companies anyway, so they'll put up the cash to make a film quickly on a quick turnaround. So it's quite, the cash is there already. But I mean, crowdfunding is becoming more and more popular here. There's certain filmmakers that kind of have a knack for doing it because they've got a pre-existing fan base, or they've spent the years in, sometimes it takes years to just build up a long list of, big email list, and, having people that you can kind of rely on to donate a few quid here and there. You kind of have to do that. And we found it quite difficult on our crowdfunding with The Baby in the Basket, that we kind of leapt into it feet first. I mean, we lucked out and we made our target, thankfully, but yeah, it's not something we would consider doing as a main source again. Potentially it's just like, bolstering up marketing funds and post funds. But yeah, more and more people are doing it. But like, the people making the movies, it's oversaturating everything. So,
Yeah,
everyone can get a film on
really,
TV.
it's really bad over here. It's
Yeah.
really bad over here. Oh, I sign on to my Facebook, and it seems like I scroll down maybe like 20 posts, and it seems like half the posts are people trying to crowdfund for a new movie. And
Yeah.
I'm just, and the thing that it is though is I think what's happening is I think like at least for Facebook anyway, I think Facebook is coming down on it because there's a lot of movies.
Yeah,
Like
I've noticed that recently. Yeah, people have been complaining.
yeah, they're saying how their posts aren't being seen or whatnot. I think what's happening is for a lot of these movies, because half of these movies aren't going to get made. They're just not.
Yeah.
It's just the thing is though, it's like when they donate, and if I think to me it's like, man, you got if you're a filmmaker, man, you got to show something. You got to show something. You just can't sit there and say crowdsource. I'm trying to get $30,000, and then don't say anything. Don't
Yeah.
and I think after that you have to, like within 4 months you should be shooting. You should shoot at least like a preview, like a
Yeah.
teaser. Like, hey, this movie is happening. Here's where we're at. And a lot of times they don't ever give updates. And so after a year, because people don't understand, it takes a little long time. It takes a long, like takes a long time to do a movie, do
Yeah.
it right. But you got to at least give them you got to tell them that, hey, this movie may not be getting made for 18 months. So if before you donate, know that at 18 months, you know, but at the same time, it's like if you haven't got your movie done in 18 months, unless you're in post, and you're still sitting, "Oh, I'm still filming it." Give the money back. Give the money back.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not a prerequisite, is it? At the moment, I don't think that comes on. So you kind of, it's like a gamble, isn't it? So you put your money in, and the filmmaker isn't obligated to give you the T-shirt that they promised you, or even make the film. Um, but it's unfortunate, and again, it doesn't help people that are doing it the right way, because people are a little bit more hesitant to then kind of throw $10 into something. Um, Again, it's difficult because also the flip side to that is, and I see this a lot with other people that do regular crowdfunding, is that they'll be doing updates almost all the time, and it gets so tiresome that you almost have to, you just think, oh, I don't care anymore. I'll just turn off the notifications or unsubscribe from the emails, because it becomes a bombardment, and it's trying to find that balance of giving enough information and not overwhelming people with your film.
What's better though? I mean, to you, I mean, what's better, to be
Oh, I
overwhelmed
think
or
probably
not
too much
hearing
than
at all?
yeah, probably
Yeah,
having a bit too much, because then at least people know that the film is kind of active and everyone's kind of doing it, or at least it appears that way. Um, yeah, the transparency on it is quite difficult, because some people put crowdfunders up for films, giving the impression that they need the money to make it, but they've already shot it. So they're effectively using a crowdfunder for one film to build up the revenue for pre-production on the next thing. But it's not always clear in the crowdfunder that they're doing that. So again, just it's a transparency thing. I think some people think it's an easy way to get money.
and I think with that's why I think platforms like Facebook are coming down on it.
Yeah,
Because people are complaining. They're saying I donated money, and I'm not getting anything for my return, and you're allowing this to happen on your website. It's like, I
yeah,
yeah, it's really rough. It's really rough. Um, Talk to us a little bit about your pride and joy. I want to talk to you a little bit about the baby. Where
yeah.
did you where now now where did you get the idea for it?
So I've worked with Nathan Shepker quite a few times. He's a good friend of mine, so we've known each other well over a decade now. Um, he's a filmmaker too. We'd always kind of envisioned kind of doing a film together. So a few years back, we did a film called When Darkness Falls, which was our kind of like our first collaboration. Um, and again, that came about from basically just spitballing an idea, kind of doing the sort of film that we wanted to do. So we were both quite keen to do something that was like a 70s style thriller, bit of a pot boiler. We did that. That did really well. So it would just became this thing of like, what we're going to do next. So Nathan just had this idea that you have a baby kind of like dropped on the doorstep of a nun's convent, and then it kind of starts from there and turns into something like The Omen. So we kind of started the snowball kind of rolling from there, and then kind of developed the idea. We were quite keen to do something that was a bit of a throwback, so kind of like gothic, old school horror film, a touch of Hammer, bit of sort of old school Polanski, and just old films like The Omen, The Wicker Man, and things like that. We wanted to build something that was quite atmospheric rather than just trying to do a load of jump scares or anything like that. And we were
Right.
quite keen we wanted to produce it ourselves, and kind of, we felt like we had to go the crowdfunding route so we could retain control, because we could have gone to a company, distributor, and said, look, this is the film we want to make. They might have handed us over, a small amount to do it in a kind of cheap and quick way. And they would have wanted something like The Nunnering, or, The Nungering, or something like that.
Yeah.
Loads of jump scares, demonic looking nuns,
Nuns versus leprechauns or something.
something like that. Yeah. So, they would have been coming back with all these notes and kind of like taking it completely the different direction than we wanted. Because it's easier to convince distributors of a vision of a film when you hand them something complete, rather than at the script stage, for example, where they would have just said, like, we need more jump scares, we need a horrible looking nun, and it's got to be 70 minutes maximum or 80 minutes maximum, just have horror scene here.
Right,
um,
right.
yeah, so we wanted to completely keep control of it. And then Gary came on board, Gary Collinson, who's the editor of Flickering Myth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so obviously, running a film site, you're going to be a big film buff and lover of film. He kind of had some aspirations to get into film production as well. So
Okay.
it just felt like a natural kind of progression to kind of join together, the three of us, and kind of put something into production in a vision that we kind of felt we wanted to do.
More and more sites are doing that. It's not
Yeah,
unheard of now. I mean, I know that Rube Morgue is doing that. Dread Central
yeah,
is doing that. I mean, they're getting they're getting involved in, before they were reporting on this. That's all they did. They reported on
yeah,
it. Like, here's what's coming down the pike, But now they're more hands on into it. Now they're like Shutter or Shutter Presents or Fangoria. I remember Fangoria, they started getting into film production back in the 80s. They did
yeah.
Brain Warp, and they did another movie. They got into the production of it, not just reporting of it. Is there a conflict of interest when a site like Flickering Myth gets involved in a film like this? Because are we going to hear back after the movie's made that, if I go to Flickering Myth, am I going to see this guy write, oh my God, this is the best movie since The Dark Song, or The Devil's
Yeah.
Doorways? Are we going to see that, or are we going to see unbiased reporting? Like, yes, this is a movie that we, the company, we put our hands into this, and this is what we think of the movie. We think it's a good movie, but they're not going to go jump over the moon for it. Is there a risk of conflict of interest, or is that no longer even considered?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we're not going to have a 5-star review of it on the site anyway. So I think that would
What?
be.
You don't know. I can't, honestly. I'll be the first one to tell you. You don't know that. You don't know, because I'm already impressed with your cast.
Yeah,
You got Millie O'Hara there. You got Michaela Longden. You got Miriam Abo. That's, as your mother superior. I mean, she's got a recognized name. You got a decent cast going.
yeah. I mean, it's a good cast, and I think I'm a bit biased, but the movies, I think we've done a really good job. We've made a really good film. So, yeah. But I mean, there'll be transparency, certainly from the website point of view, where they'll be actively promoting it when it comes out. I mean, there's a kind of like stuck on page there anyway, so people can kind of always see the updates on the page on the site, because they're going to be billed on it as well. So Flickering Myth's going to be billed on the film at the front, so they're directly involved. So there's no kind of hiding the fact that they're kind of creatively involved in making the film.
I think it's great.
But I mean, but I mean, we won't be having it reviewed on the site. At least not as far as I know. Gary might say different, but
when it gets ready to rock and roll, you just slide it on over. You can rest assured.
There's so many websites anyway, so I'm sure we'll get a load of reviews out there. Hopefully, reasonable ones.
Plus, you got all the people here that like you here on YouTube. I've seen your work reviewed here on YouTube. So I think those people will give you.
I tend to get kinder reviews on YouTube than on IMDb, I think, as well.
IMDb can be brutal.
It's difficult, because what I've noticed lately with IMDb is that the website has its own kind of way of rating films, and you're kind of at the behest of what they want to rate your film as. So it might not correlate to what the actual mathematical average is.
Plus, I think IMDb is being owned by Amazon.
Yeah,
They're biased.
so
They're biased anyway. So I immediately discount that.
yeah, I mean the problem is because they Amazon own it, there's a bit of a conflict of interest there.
Like that, you see
Because if they
Invincible,
if they
you
review
see
it under a
Invincible, The
certain level,
Boys, you see them all high rated, all highly ranked. Of course, you are.
yeah,
Every Amazon series or movie that they make, they're going to be high up on there. They're never going
yeah.
to be.
But some channels and some distributors will only take a film if it's over a certain rating. So what that means is if Amazon or IMDb uh, drop your film below a certain rating, you might not get onto certain channels or certain territories. But that's potentially a way that Amazon have of controlling, a film's output and distribution. Gives them the option to then drop it without any kind of reasoning needed, because they'll say, oh, well, your film's dropped below a certain rating.
And
So it's tough.
it frustrates me too, because you think that certain people would have enough common sense to think for themselves and
Yeah,
realize that IMDb is no longer a credible rating service. I mean,
no,
we see it all the time, and it gets bombed. Like if somebody doesn't like something, they'll go there and they'll get like 10,000 people hitting on it to drive
yeah,
it down or drive it up. I mean, it's like it's commonplace. So
yeah,
I truly don't understand why someone says, "Well, it's all going to be a matter on your Amazon rating." That's what you
yeah,
trust. You're trusting that. I mean, seriously, you can't think for yourself. Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, at the drop of a hat, you could have a lot of indie filmmakers have seen this, where there's been almost like a click of a finger, and their films have just dropped in rating
Hmm.
without any change in the number of votes. Amazon have just decided, well, instead of a 4 out of 10, we're going to give that 2 out of 10. And it's just that's, they'll say it's their algorithm or whatever, but you'll suddenly see random rating drops just with no kind of reasoning for it.
Well,
Um,
the good thing is though is that where it comes down to Leprechaun's game,
yeah, they're probably right on that
it
one.
can't drop any further than that.
No,
Or the Scarecrow or whatever.
yeah, it's frustrating though, because you do a film that you think is better, gets good reviews, and then all of a sudden IMDb just snap a finger like Thanos, and then your rating just drops. We've had that on a few films. It's tough because there seems to be like a cap to how much your film can be rated if you're a certain company or you're a certain indie level of filmmaker. There seems to be a bit of a bias towards British films at the moment as well, because they might look at it and say that because it's made in Britain, but most of the votes are from the US, which is always going to be the case. That doesn't marry up in the algorithm's mind. So it's tough because you'll see that on certain films. There's like certain levels of budget, and as you go up in budget, the cap or the ceiling goes a little bit higher, unless you get something that gets this kind of word of mouth or gets kind of enough of a cultural impact that it can kind of have a more honest rating. And that's before you account for the users kind of maybe bombing it or bots bombing it.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, I'm looking forward to the baby in the basket. The synopsis sounds right up our alley. A baby in a basket is left on the steps of an isolated monastery on a Scottish island. The nuns take it in, planning to care for it until a storm passes. Soon, though, strange and unexplained events begin to happen of the covenant. And like I said, it sounds interesting. I love the cast. It looks very cool. How did you get Miriam Diabo to join your project? That's what I want to know.
Yeah,
That's a feather. That's a feather.
we were. Yeah,
That's the same level as Natasha.
yeah. I mean, we had in mind very early on that we wanted a name in as Mother Superior, and also as the groundskeeper in the film, played by Paul Barber, who's been in Full Monty and a few other films as well. Um, Mariam Diabo was one of the first names we kind of considered, because we were thinking, right, well, we want someone that's kind of a bit of a name that is we're going to be within our budget level as well. So we started thinking of maybe like, well, let's look at maybe ex-Bond girls, because we also wanted to do get someone that it might be a bit unexpected as well. So yeah, so she was one of the first people we considered, and thankfully she loved the script. She signed on. And again, Paul Barber, he signed on largely on the strength of the script as well. From my point of view, this was quite an interesting project for me to do, in terms of like, I was developing the idea with Nathan. We kind of were on the same page anyway. We like the same kind of film, so we kind of had the same sort of ideas of where the film should go. So it was a lot more of a kind of personal project for me, and it was almost like I had to kind of, I viewed it as a bit of a test on whether or not I could still write, if that makes sense. Like you say, sometimes you do like a leprechaun thing, and you're doing it to a certain product.
Is it hard? I mean, you're sitting there. Is it hard for you to? Okay, I just got done writing the Leprechaun's Curse. Now now my writing's cursed. How do I? Well, I mean, how do I go? How do I go from writing about a guy wearing a $1.50 mask to a baby in the basket? I mean, but I think that naturally comes to you. I think once you start writing and you realize that you're writing a much better project, I think the energy comes a lot faster to you. You all of a sudden you're more excited.
It did. Yeah.
I can't imagine how hard it was for you to sit there and you're like, you want me to write what?
Yeah.
It's like, to me, I thought you said that she liked you. I get along with Louisa fine. Well, then why is she giving you all these, stop doing that.
Yeah. For her, it comes from the distributors. So it's the same for her. They come to her originally and say, look, can you do this? Tick these boxes here. Deliver it at, this budget.
Yeah.
And we'll give you the money. So, yeah. But I mean, it was me like testing myself again, because a lot of writers that are kind of working regularly, they'll probably tell you that their best work is unmade, that it's the script that's in the back of their hard drive that they wrote years ago, which has the best idea, that's fresh, original. It might have got them some work by being a bit of a calling card, but it's not the sort, people want to make leprechaun films, or they want to make shark films. If they're in that kind of budget level, or slightly more, they want to make just simple action films or simple horror films.
I have to admit, I'm absolutely pumped for Mountain Shark.
I'll be curious to see that one as well, because I was a little bit.
That sounds really intriguing, doesn't it? I know my.
But I can guarantee you there'll be no mountains in it.
I know
there'll be a few big hills, but that'll be it.
My friend Eric, he'll love this. He'll love hearing about this. I want to make sure that he knows that there's a Mountain Shark movie coming. I think it's amazing. I think that'll be fun. So what's next for you, other than a baby in the basket? I mean, what's next? What's upcoming for you? What's coming down the road? Are you writing anything exciting? You're not writing another. You promise us here. We got all these people here. Promise us you're not writing another Leprechaun movie.
No. I've taken a bit of a back step from writing kind of like the really small genre films.
Yes, thank you.
Because I've just been too busy doing other things. So I've just finished shooting a film that I wrote and produced with my brother. We're in post on that now. That was an interesting one. That was kind of like my first one producing solo. So I've produced a couple of things with Nathan now. This one was kind of like my own baby completely. So I came up with the idea, and it's a bit more a complete change of pace, really. So it's more of an art house drama. So yeah, complete change of pace for me. So that went really well. We're really pleased with that one. So there's a little bit more to finish in post, and then we'll take it to festivals later in the year. But I think, I'm really happy with that one. I mean, it's probably the lowest budget film I've ever had, but it's also probably one of the best.
No, it's not. Not the lowest budget. no, no, no. I can no.
It, it is yeah,
There will never be a more. You will be safe from that. I
yeah.
promise you. Plus, your return from your film. I mean, I know the movie that you're talking about, but we're going to keep that on the down low until you're ready to announce it. When you're ready to bring it to festivals and ready to release, we'll definitely have you come on back and bring some of your castmates with you. Did you
Yeah,
have a
definitely,
name?
yeah.
Do you have a name attached that you could tell us for your new project? Did you get another name attached?
So I got Annabelle Lanyon, who was in Legend. So she was also in The Baby in the Basket as well. So she came back for We Go Again, which is the film I just finished. And then we had Zuza Tahanu as well. I've been meaning to work with her quite a while because she's this kind of like multidiscipline mixture of just lots of different things. So she's a musician, performer, actress, does fire breathing as well, which we utilized in the film. Um, and then Charlotte Chu, who I'd worked with before, and she's amazing as well. So it was kind of like working with people I knew and who I knew I could trust and rely on as well. And obviously my brother as well. So I've known him all my life, so I knew what he could do.
It's gonna be very exciting. I think this project that we're talking about, I'm very excited for. It's I think it'll be just another step up in your success.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
hope so. I'm hoping it
I
opens a
think
different.
I think earlier I mentioned how you see people going up like this. That's how I see screenwriters as well.
Yeah,
You know, you write. You know, you get better and better at it. The more you write, the more films you get made out of your projects. The more well known you do. I mean, the better known the project is. So
yeah, sure.
it'll
Yeah,
be
I'm
it'll be
working with
very
Nathan again as well on something at the moment. So we've just finished the script on a thriller, and again, it's another throwback. So we were kind of doing a sort of 70s to early 90s kind of thriller. Um, that's going to be shooting a little bit later this month, and then we're going to shoot the bulk of the film in October, November. So we're excited about that. Um, yeah, and I'm working on another script at the moment, which unfortunately I can't say anything about, but that's very exciting because I'm working with another filmmaker I've worked with before. Um, I did a version of War of the Worlds with him, so I'm very excited about this one as well, as it's a bit of a little bit more family orientated and quite big and hopefully quite spectacular.
That's great. I love the fact that you're doing that. You know, because you don't see a lot of independent dramas being made. Not a whole lot, especially
No,
not a lot for coming from the UK. I mean, most of the movies I've seen from the UK are either gangster films or
yeah,
the horror films. So it's nice to turn around and see a movie like this. You know, the Talking Pups. I'm very curious about that. Or this drama here. I'm very curious to see how that goes because you just don't see it on the indie level. You just don't.
no, not really. I mean, to get kind of a drama made, in certainly in film, you have to be a film that's like 2 or 3 million budget. You have to have a name on board. You have to be attached to like one of the biggest studios, or like BBC or Channel 4 or Working Title or someone like that. Um, or you have to do certain types of films, I guess. There's like a stage where the Full Monty came out and everyone wanted to do the next Full Monty. Yeah, you kind of get locked into that. But yeah, that was the reason I wanted to do We Go Again, is that I had to fund it myself, but um, I wanted to do something completely my way, that the kind of film that I wanted to do. Um, Again, I love doing all different types, but this was something I hadn't quite done yet, and I wanted to kind of look into something with real kind of things that humans deal with and difficulties, and do something kind of interesting, which hopefully will work.
And it will, and it will. Um, I am looking. It looks like we have hit our time, so I want to go ahead and I'll go ahead and let you go for your rest of your night. But hold on for 1 second. I want to thank you for coming out there and talking to us again and answering all our questions. You answered them like a prince. Thank you so much. We had a lot of fun with asking the questions, and yeah, I knew that as soon as I saw the Leprechauns game, I said I got to bring Tom back on. We got to talk about this. We have to talk about this. But thank you so much for being a gentleman and doing that. And again, it's an education as well. I
Thank you,
want to thank
Patrick.
yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. When you get your passion project ready to release, we'll come do this again. I want to thank the chat for coming in and hanging out with us today on a matinee. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, Betty and Steven and Mike and Chadwick had come in, and Pap and Sue and Stephen Chang. Thank you guys so much. And Sarah, thank you for coming out and hanging out with us. We'll be back tonight at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock tonight, we'll be back with Karma Lewis. And if you want to ever learn how to run a farm or homesteading or what living in Idaho is like, well, we'll get those answers for you tonight when we talk to Karma. Karma will be here at 8 o'clock. All right. Stay right where you're at, Tom. And for everybody else, thank you again for your support. Wouldn't be here without it. And we will talk at you soon. Be safe and see you at 8 o'clock. Peace.